Uh, Hi there.
Hello.
So, how do you think using social media helps your career?
Um, it's weird because in terms of music, it's one of those things where you kind of need it and then you don't need it as well. It's like a love-hate relationship with it. So bands need social media to get the music out. Obviously, that's a given. But it's also one of them things where it also destroys your career in like a longevity kind of way because you don't really sort of gain a lot from it. So if you sort of like if you wanted to, say for example, if you're getting bigger in a band, you get more into the industry. It doesn't sort of give you anything in terms of like financially, which everybody says that like money isn't music or music isn't about money, which it's not. But then if you want to make that more into a career, if you want to go into recording, if you want to progress and buy things like merch and things like that, it then becomes a bit more difficult, and you sort of relying on other things like merch and things like that, for example. So it's kind of like it kills it and it bigs you up at the same time. So you need it, and then you also don't as well.
Do you feel like in the modern music industry, how it's so reliant on social media a lot of the time, it's quite hard for local and smaller bands to get noticed?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things as well is that there's so many bands in the world now. There's so many bands doing, and it goes back to the everybody needs originality in the music, which is a really hard thing to do in a world where so many bands are doing the exact same thing. And this is a conversation that we've had recently about our new releases. Is like how can you stand out from the crowd? How can you change? How can you do things differently? And we've decided that the best way to be original is to reinvent and go old. So like all the old music, like you back in the day, Slipknot and Korn and Mudvayne and things like that. So like nobody's doing that anymore. And weirdly enough, that's already been done, but nobody's doing it anymore. So that kind of makes it new.
Yeah.
So like if you start going towards those old grassroots of metal and music and things like that, then you sort of find yourself reinventing things, and that's how bands sort of progress a bit more, because they're doing something that stands out. If you've got 4 bands and they're all doing the same thing, they've all got a very similar sounding EP, which do you go for?
Yeah.
But if you've got like that 6th band that stands out and does something different, then they're going to progress a bit more because they've got a bit of a different outlook. They're going to get a different criteria, and more people are going to warm towards them. So.
Okay. How do you think are the benefits of using streaming sites?
Yeah, I think local bands definitely. If you're up and coming, then you need to really push streaming sites. You need to really push, because essentially you are trying to get your music out there. You're trying to get everything possible on every single platform, on every single social media site, everywhere that you physically can. But then when you start to get more in depth with the music industry, that's when you start to realise the not benefits, but you start to realise, I'll say benefits. You start to realise the benefits of what actual physical sales will do for you, and actual like physically getting your music out there, because it's very easy to stream a song, but then how many bands on your Spotify, for example, have you downloaded over the years and they're just now part of your library? You know what I mean?
Quite a lot.
You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like streaming bands is really good to get like noticed quite quickly, so to get yourself out there. But again, how many bands have you downloaded over the years, or how many local bands have you seen? Or if you go to a gig and you go, I'll check you guys out on Spotify, but then it sits in your library.
Again.
That's what I mean. So it's a gift and a curse at the same time.
Do you think to make it in the modern day music industry, you would struggle a lot more if you didn't use social media at all?
Yeah, because I think that the world's become so reliant on social media, and that's not just even in music, that's with everything. So if like, if you start up a business and you're a builder, the way that you used to get around was word of mouth, but now it's social media. If you post photos of like, if you've done somebody's driveway and it looks mint, you post a photo of it and then people recommend you, or you're a driving instructor, people like post pictures of you if you've got loads of passes and stuff like that. It's the same kind of thing with that and everything. Social media influences so many people to progress further because they can see physical progress. If nobody can see physical progress, then they're not going to invest time into you, and that's just the way. It's a very sad way that it works, but it does work, because if you can't see that a band's moving and doing anything, then nobody's going to invest time into them. So if their social media, their last post was from like a year ago, but they're actually touring, nobody knows that because they haven't posted anything. That's how social media like influences everybody, because if you don't see it, then they're obviously not doing anything.
Yeah.
So.
Well, do you feel like if if you were in a time where social media wasn't used at all, that you would be able to thrive more, or not thrive as well as you are doing now?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think with the way that the world's gone at the moment and how modernised everything's become, so that's not even just like the music itself, but the way music is published, and the way that the tours are, and the way that you record, and the way that you do everything, it has all become modernized. So it's kind of like, as everything's built up over the years, it's all come into one kind of circle. So like the way that everything is on social media, so you push out your music via all these streaming platforms, but then say if a band wants to get merch printed, you ask opinions on what the merch looks like, but you can't actually physically make that decision if you haven't seen any of the designs, or if you haven't seen any, like, not a lot. You couldn't rely on people to just go to a gig to then see your merch and then buy it. It's all, if you post a photo online and somebody likes that merch, then they'll buy it. So it's kind of like, you wouldn't survive nowadays without social media, just because of the way that, like, the modern industry has made it, and it's kind of like molded itself around social media. So.
What social media platforms do you think are most essential for your music career?
Facebook and Spotify. Facebook's become the new MySpace, and MySpace, when it was a thing, was like, it was the biggest thing. If you made it on MySpace, then you were getting there, you were big. But Facebook's become that thing now where so many people see Facebook, and it's so quick for things to go viral on Facebook. There was something completely irrelevant from music, but there was something that I saw on Facebook the other day. It was an argument, and it was like between two people, and the guy had done something really bad, and basically everybody had shared it, but everybody in like the Manchester scene and all like surrounding that area knew about that incident straight away.
Yeah.
Within the same night. So where music's concerned, if you post a song and one person shares it, and then two of their friends see it, and then they share it, and then four of their friends see it and they share it, that's, what I mean, there's so many people that share it over the longevity of the time, and it's one of them where Facebook's the worst thing that can happen to a band, but it's also the best thing that can happen to it as well.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like you're obliged to put your music on streaming sites?
Yeah, because I think you can't really get your music out any other way, because things like YouTube, it's cool to watch things on YouTube, and you can watch music videos, but when do you, like, if you think about it, when do you mostly listen to music? You listen to it in your car, you listen to it on the bus, you listen to it, when you're in class, or when you're at the gym or something like that. Not many people watch music videos, they listen to it, and you can't really, like, YouTube hasn't really released anything where you can just listen to it and close your phone off. So streaming sites give you that power to be able to just go, right, I'm just going to put a song on, chuck my headphones in, and then chuck my phone to one side, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do with my day. So in essence, yeah, streaming sites work because you can just chuck an album on, and that's it. It's then playing, and it's there, it's easily accessible, and you can get any music in the world as long as it's on that streaming site. So yeah, in a weird way, it's very, very essential for bands to have that music on streaming sites.
Yeah.
It's just really sad and really shit how it kills the music industry so much, because nobody makes anything from it. Nobody really gains a lot from it. You actually put music, you actually put money into these things to gain nothing from it.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases where you don't earn anywhere near as much as you put into it.
And again, I'm not sort of like saying that, like, money is everything or anything like that, but do you know when, like, if you work, most bands all have day jobs, and most bands that are sort of like getting big and doing the big tours, a lot of them do have day jobs as well, which a lot of people don't know, but a lot of your favourite bands do also have day jobs and do also have things on the side to make them money. And the worst part about it is that I don't like to think that money is the be-all end-all of it, but when you've got merch to pay for, recording to pay for, fuel to pay for to tour, food, accommodation, all that kind of stuff, but you're making zero from it, it then becomes very difficult, and that's why so many people split up. That's why so many bands sort of like decide to call it a day, because they don't make anything from it, they don't sort of gain anything from it, and everything that, like, we make, for example, goes straight back into the band. We don't actually take anything from it.
Yeah.
And that's what kills a lot of people, is that they don't make anything from it anyway, so they can't physically put anything back. But say, like, you put in all your wages into it, but then you actually can't physically live yourself, it puts you in a bad situation there.
What do you think artists need to do to make themselves stand out on social media sites or on streaming platforms?
It goes back to like, if you look at, weirdly, if you look at like Facebook algorithms, um, it's become a thing where, you know, if you get into the nitty gritty of it, so Facebook has a thing where if you post at a certain time in the day, you're more likely to get a bigger reach than, like, say for example, you were to post at like 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. That's when everybody's on the lunch break. That's when everybody's looking at the phone. That's when you're most likely going to get the biggest reach. But then, like I said earlier, if you're gonna jump on if you're gonna like post something like a single at like 5-6 o'clock, that's when everybody's leaving work. That's when everybody's in the car. They're on, like, they're walking home. They're doing something. They're not actually going to see it. They're not concentrating. They're just, you know, focused on getting home. So that single's not going to get touched for like an hour or 2 hours, however long it takes you to get home. And by that time, hundreds of people could have posted a status, and then it's gone. Then it's just into the abyss that Facebook is. So it's one of those things where you've kind of got to look at what content you're posting. You've got to think smart with it. You got to think, right, okay, if I'm going to post a single, I'm going to build it up. I'm going to post it like once or twice a day, but far in between, so people can see that one in the morning and they can also see that one in the afternoon, so it doesn't clash. And then if you look at like the music that you're making, make it different. Like, instead of just like following the same formula of what all other bands do, look at something different. Look at what's not been done. If you can see a genre that's being made consistently throughout bands, look at a genre that's not. So like, say for example, all your metalcore bands at the moment, so like you've got Asking Alexandria, say for example, they're following a pattern of what everybody's doing. So Bring Me the Horizon released that album Ammo, and it was sick, and it had all the electric stuff in it, and it sounded cool. But then everybody started jumping on that bandwagon of releasing that kind of music. And then you got bands like Slipknot, for example, who were one of the heaviest bands ever, and they're now releasing like melodic stuff, and like, but nobody's listening to that old style of metal. Nobody's taking those old albums anymore. They're just sort of like they're the ones that are going to bring it out. They're the ones that are going to make you sound different. So if you go old, it makes it new.
Yeah.
Which is really weird to say, but it's true.
Alright, and finally, what is your opinion on the statement that social media and streaming sites are killing the music industry?
Yeah, very much so. It's and not even that they're just killing the music industry. It's kind of, you know, again, it goes back to that thing that I said earlier. How many albums do you download, and how many of those albums do you listen to on a daily, and how many of them get lost in your Spotify library? And that happens to so many bands. If you're a local band and like somebody will download you, you know, it's standard that at least somebody will download your album on Spotify. But I'm only going to listen to it again. So essentially, it does kill it, because then your music just gets lost.
Yeah.
So streaming sites are really good to get an instant reaction out of, you know, because the first thing that people like think now is, if your music's out, is it on Spotify? Is it on iTunes? They're the first questions that you're going to get asked. So they're going to go and download it, and then they're going to listen to it, and then they're going to listen to it again, and that's it. It'll get lost. They won't listen to it. So it's good for that instant impact, but then you've got to consistently post about it all the time. You've got to keep, and this is where social media comes in. So like you physically got to post your music on Spotify for people to listen to it instantly, but then you've got to consistently post about it and consistently put stories about it and like tell people and remind people that it's on Spotify, and that's where that social media loop gets you, because then you've got to consistently work it and pay more for sponsored ads and things like that. So essentially, it's killing the music industry in a way.
Well, thank you for your time.
No worries.